Hello, everybody. This is Apple Gaming SE, and I am talking with PBY Game Studio. And we are going to talk about the Apple news this week, all about the Macs. Back to the Mac, and focusing up on getting this M4 generation started. So it was 3 different days. We had the iMac, we had the Mac Mini, and then we had the MacBook Pro. Each day offering a glimpse at a new hardware configuration for the primary SoC in the M4 family. That being said, PBY, just off the cuff, what was something that you really liked from, we'll just say day one with the iMacs? Was there anything that jumped out at you?
Uh, I'm not quite sure because I used to have iMac. It was basically my first Apple that I had back in the 2015, I think, but it was still on Intel, and I really loved that computer. But unfortunately, I had to sell it because I used to work in 3D graphics in game industry, and I had to use 3ds Max for the work. So I needed to use Windows, so I had to sell my first iMac and switch back to Windows because of the work. But I really love that computer because, it's all in one. You have only one cable. It was very comfortable to work with. It was pretty fast, nice screen. Yeah, so I really love that computer. What I don't like on today's iMacs is just the screen because it's too small for today's standard, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's 24 inch, so it's quite small for my taste, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. I actually
Yeah.
I got a 24-inch 1080p monitor, and I just recently upgraded to a 27-inch 1440p, and I was actually quite shocked. I was like, I didn't realize that I needed this much screen real estate. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely, there's something to that for sure. I don't know if you recall, do the M1 iMacs, do they have 24-inch screens, or were they 21
I
and a
think
half?
so.
Okay, so they did just go straight 24 after that.
Yeah, yeah, but they used to have 27, I think, on Intel.
There was a time where they did. I want to say that the iMac Pro is 27. Yeah, I'm looking at the M1 iMacs right now. They're all 24 inch on the refurbished store. So yeah, those are all
Mhm.
24 inch. Let me see if they have an iMac Pro. I doubt it after all these years, but you never know. No,
Yeah,
they're done with it.
I'm also not sure because it was almost 10 years ago, so maybe I'm just mistaken that it was 24.
No,
But
I'm thinking of the last generation, the M1 iMacs. You might be right that it was 21 and a half inches in 2015.
uh-huh,
I'm pretty sure, because that
yeah,
was I
yeah,
want to say that was the 5th gen or the 4th gen Core i5 and i7 models that were out.
yeah, and I had i5, I think.
Okay. Oh, the good old days. Was it one of the really thin ones where the back of it was curved and the edge of the, like if you looked
hmm
at it from side on? Yeah, I roommate
hmm
at the
hmm
at the roommate I used to have. He got one of those, and
hmm
because I was like, that was like the late 2000s through the mid 2010s was like my like golden era of Mac hardware, because I worked at Apple and I got into all the Apple like stuff, and I would refurbish them. And anyway, we helped him do some upgrades to his iMac. We made it the best we possibly could. I tore that thing down and put like really high quality like it was Arctic Silver at the time, but I forget what the exact model was on the
hmm
CPU and the GPU. we
hmm
we had a great time with that thing. Oh, back in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
days when you could do that with the Mac.
yeah, definitely. Um, you know what's strange? I was never a big fan of Windows and PC platform at all, but I used PCs basically all my life
Right.
because uh, just use it for my work and job. So it was just my source of income.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I used Windows. Yeah, but I was never a fan of the CISC architecture
Mm-hmm.
in PC in general. So it's strange that I hated that platform and I used it anyway for all my life. basically to it was 2019 or 20 when I bought the M1 Mac back again. But until then, I was just on PC platform.
What Mac did you switch back to?
It was Mac Mini M1.
Okay.
It was just after it was released. And I knew that they switched to ARM, basically to RISC architecture that I'm a really big fan of.
Right.
So it was really great news for me that they are switching from Intel back to their own architecture. So it was a good sign that I can switch back again. And I quit the 3D industry and started my career as a web developer. So I basically didn't need to use Windows anymore. So I took the chance and bought my first M1 Mac Mini.
Hallelujah, amen. In 2008 is when I first switched to Mac, and I got the mid-tier MacBook because I used to offer them in like basically three specifications outside of the build-to-order options, and so I got the one that was middle of the road, and I just basically told myself I'm going to do a 30-day challenge, and I'm just going to do everything I possibly can on this Mac. And if there's something I don't know how to do, I cannot cheat and go back to my PC. I have to learn how to do it on Mac. And at the end of that 30 days, my brain was rewired, and I absolutely could not stand Windows anymore, and I've hated it ever since. I also used to be like a Windows PC technician, so I would see them break all the time. That probably didn't help me with my my dislike of Windows. And then I was a Windows systems admin and later an Active Directory engineer. And I was just like, I every day just hate Windows, and I'm now a Linux systems engineer. So we've all taken that journey where we're like, we have to use Windows for something, usually something work related. And then we grow out of it. We find the alternatives, and we're like, yeah, this is it. This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that we had in some ways a similar journey in that regard.
I grew up on a Amiga computer, which is the best computer ever made, I think.
I like
it. Ever. And it was also ARM architecture. So, when Apple announced ARM architecture back again, so it was just the right time to switch back again.
Right. So that's an interesting thing about when Apple switched to the M1 series. I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, we really have come full circle. Like in the 90s, it was going into the 80s, into the 90s, you really had that conflict between RISC and CISC.
Yeah.
And then CISC basically won out. I forget if PowerPC Macs, if they were CISC. I think they were, but I can't swear to that.
No. I think PowerPC was RISC.
Okay.
Yeah, right. They were RISC.
So yeah, they basically survived to the mid 2000s. And then it all switched, and now we've been for the last decade and a half. It's been basically the entire ecosystem has been CISC. Yeah. Now you have some Linux distros and some like more the esoteric hardware out there that did ARM systems. Of course, like I have a separate YouTube channel. I've done some of that stuff over there, but it just never felt like a complete package. And M1 really changed that, and it really said, we could already see what iPhones could do. I think it was the iPhone 5S technically had more raw, like floating point computing power than the quad Power Mac G5 from 2005 did. So it's like you could already see where it was going. So it'll be interesting to see how we're going back into a RISC kind of world, and to see how that changes. I think Apple does well when they can control the whole package, top to bottom, front to back.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think that this is really gonna. This is where Qualcomm's coming in with their competitors over on the Windows side of things. But Intel and AMD are also still trying to keep x86 alive, because that's why they have the coalition now and such. So their consortium, which is the x86 Alliance or whatever they want to call it. So anyway.
Yeah. And I think we already have some ARM version of Windows. And there are
Yep.
some rumors that maybe some bootcamp possibilities for M1
I
or M
think
chips in general.
Yeah, I think that is. I think you can definitely run ARM on Windows under VMware Fusion or Parallels. I forget exactly, but there's
Uh-huh.
definitely a Windows ARM out there. But
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
for Windows, they're going to run into the same problem that Android systems have, which is all of the ARM processors that are on Android are generalized system processors. So Apple makes their hardware for their OS, for their software,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
while over on the Android side of things, you have to make, like Windows, you have to make a more generalized application stack that doesn't integrate
Yeah.
quite as tightly. So that's always where the performance differences are, in my mind, at least. I know there's a lot of different opinions out there. So, boy, we went down
Mm-hmm.
a rabbit hole with Risk and CISC and all of that.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about the Macs. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, all right. So the iMac. Let's talk about the iMac here. 24-inch.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
ever since they switched to the white bezel, I love the white bezel. I think the white bezel looks incredibly good,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the iMac should
Mm-hmm.
be a super colorful computer, and I like that it is.
Yeah.
Starting
Yeah.
price
Yeah. Definitely.
$12.99, same as before. You get an 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU, 16 gigs of unified memory at last. Should have been done that a long
Mm-hmm.
time ago, Apple.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Still 256 on the storage though. $12.99. Are you buying this thing, or are you leaving it on the shelf? It's like $1,300.
Uh, I'm not sure, to be honest. Uh,
Tough sell.
I like the design. I just don't have any use for it because, as I said, I like to choose my own screen, and 24 is very small for me. So in general, I like this product. It's very beautiful. The screen is very nice. It's thin. I love it. Yeah, but I would probably not buy it for myself. But it's because only the work I do, because I do the 3D graphics for fun as a hobby,
Right.
and I need something a little more powerful and bigger screen for it. So this is basically the main reasons why I wouldn't buy iMac anymore.
Leaving it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
There is something interesting about these that I noticed when I was going through and messing around with the configurator, because I've always had like a desire to want like the maximum amount of, like, just to trick out these things on occasion. Like, what's the highest end you can make it? There's something interesting I noticed here in that if you get the 256 solid state storage option, you cannot get 32 gigs of RAM. So Apple is locking that additional 8 extra gigs behind what is effectively a $800 price increase.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting, and I'm wondering if there's something to do, because this is also only available, that option's also only available on the 10-core 10 GPU M4. That's not on the 8-core.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the binned component, that's not an option. But the fact that it's not an option either, if you have the 256 gig storage option, makes me wonder if there's something with the memory controller that's in place here. I have no way of knowing. It's broad speculation, but it was just an interesting anecdote as I was going through this.
Yeah, yeah. But I believe that it's not that the hardware couldn't handle it. It's just because they want to separate the products somehow.
Yeah, so it's product segmentation.
If basically.
I gotcha.
But that's just also my own opinion.
I worked for them for 2.5 years. I know how it goes. So Apple definitely is. There's no other company that can step you up the ladder of like, well, I can afford a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, like Apple can. Like Apple's got that perfect $200, €200, I guess, for you, like price increase as you go up the stack. Just get you real comfortable with it. And before you know it, you're like, I've thrown an extra $1,000 at this thing, and it's no big deal. All right.
Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts on the iMac itself or the iMac presentation or anything like that?
The presentation, maybe in general, because what I didn't like on all of the shows or all the videos they released is the fact that they were more presenting the Apple Intelligence than the product itself. In every video, it was like, yeah, here we have great Apple Intelligence. It can do this and it can do that. And by the way, here is a new product for you. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure I do because I think I may have misheard you. It sounded like you
No,
said
no.
like it said Apple generations. I'm not sure. You said just repeat it for me one more
Apple
time. Sorry.
Intelligence, Apple Intelligence.
Oh, Apple Intelligence. Yeah, yeah. No, there
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was more focused on the Apple Intelligence than on the product itself. That's what I
100
wanted to say.
100%. Every
Yeah.
single one had the lady Allegra come out, which don't get me wrong, Allegra's like she's a great orator, she's very attractive. So like, if you're gonna have somebody tell you about Apple Intelligence, you probably are going to be hard pressed to find somebody within the company better than her. She talked
Mm-hmm.
with confidence, and I liked the way she sounded and the way she presented everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it really did, like, you have to listen to it because she would say things like, when Siri gains the ability to contextualize what you're saying. And it's like, wait, when? Like it's not. So Apple Intelligence
Yeah.
itself is not really a fully baked cake in this sense. So there's still a lot coming out, even though I just put 18.1 on my phone today. I think I have an Intel MacBook Pro, so I'm not going to get Apple Intelligence on my Mac.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think 15.1 is either coming out today or it came out. Let me check real quick. I don't want to blast my serial number. Yeah, okay. I got 15.1. I think that was a few days ago. I don't want to put my serial number up on the screen. So it is interesting that they focus so heavily on Apple Intelligence, and I've wondered for a while because I've criticized this about Apple. They've been stuck on 8 gigabytes for how long as the entry level product, and I keep thinking to myself, like, what has really meaningfully changed in Mac OS? And when I just recently bought a 2010 Mac Pro that had OpenCore Legacy Patcher put on it, and it's running Ventura, which is Mac OS 12. And I just fell into using that as if there was no difference between Ventura and Sequoia. And I'm like, so what is different about Mac OS over the years? Like, so like the software at some point is no longer super impressive. Like, we're kind of in an era, it feels like, where technology has become very iterative, and AI and large language models are the only thing that's pushing it forward, if you will.
Yeah,
so it's probably why they're focusing on it.
There are not so many inventions anymore.
Yeah, innovation's definitely taken a little bit of a slower pace. I'm not gonna say it stopped because I don't think that's true, but it's definitely slowed down.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, slowed down.
So okay, well that's that. That's all I got to say. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, but I like they are still improving at least the hardware capabilities, its potential, and etc. So that's always nice.
Yeah, I think the heart and mind, like the SoC, the system on a chip that has the CPU, the GPU, the NPU, and now the RAM and the storage. I think the M4 itself, the GPU and CPU and NPU specifically, I think all of that is getting iterated on and pushed quite nicely. I have some statistics, which unfortunately we weren't able to get the screen share working quite right, but I took some screenshots of some performance metrics that have come out for the Geekbench 6 stuff, and we're looking at 20 to 30% like generation on generation, like step ups from M1. Like, it was basically like 15, 20, 30% depending on which SoC you're using, which I thought was really impressive that Apple has been able to maintain that consistency across basically everything for the last 4 years. So I have to give them props for that.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's much more easier, or it was much more easier when they were on Intel, because there were so many CPUs you could choose from. So you can basically upgrade it basically on the performance, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, that's actually
just switch the CPU for another one, and you are ready to go. But if you are building your own hardware, your own CPUs, it may be a little more difficult to maintain.
Well, it's actually interesting. That you saying that, we just talked about how the software innovation feels like it's slowed down a bit, but for the 2010s, actually thinking back on it, I felt like, and this is more Intel's fault than Apple's, that the innovation on the hardware front really slowed down over the 2010s as far as the Macs go. Like I think iPhones, iPads like exploded. They were fantastic over that decade. But I feel, and while Mac growth continued over the 2010s, the hardware really generation to generation was not all that impressive. Apple did what they could with NVIDIA. Unfortunately, Apple and NVIDIA kind of had a falling out, so they had to move to AMD, which I'm not upset about. I like AMD. But it does feel like there was not a meaningful performance gain over those many years. I mean, I'm sure there were. Like, I'm sure if you went and put the you crunch the numbers between the whatever the last Intel MacBook Air was, and definitely compared to the first MacBook Air, which was a super underclocked Core 2 Duo, like you're going to see a huge performance difference. But if you step it up just year to year to year to year, you're not going to see that. And you're comparing the same models, of course. You're not going to see that same, I think, explosive kind of progression forward. It feels like, this community that we're in is Apple gaming focused, and it feels like every time we get new hardware, we see a meaningful step forward in the performance of the systems we're getting. The M3 era, that whole architecture that they introduced with M3 and the A16 SoCs, all of that was gaming wise a huge step forward from M2, and M2 was I think a meaningful and noticeable step forward from M1, and of course M1 was huge compared to Intel. So
definitely.
So that's maybe that's where we are. Maybe we're in that era where the hardware upgrades are more meaningful than the software, and outside of Intel, like AI services, of course, is what I mean.
And another thing is also that when you are creating your own hardware, you can create it your own way and write your own software for it. So it's first optimized that it can do everything you need it to do. Because if you are, if you use some different hardware you don't create or develop, you are limited by the hardware itself. You can't do your own things. But if you create your own hardware, you can build it the way you need it. If you know what I mean.
Yep. No, I completely get it. And a perfect example of that is
I just not able to describe it the way I want. So I'm sorry.
No, it's I understand. Go ahead.
The reason the Apple is now developing or progressing so much is because they are doing their own hardware and their own software. That's the main reason why they're progressing so much in the games industry, etc.
Yeah, and I think Apple does want to make the Mac a maybe in the short term a premier gaming ecosystem is too narrow, because I don't think that Apple understands the gamer market, especially on the PC side of things, where everything is expected to be, you can install mods, you can change things. If you buy games on Steam or GOG or whatever the case is, you basically have a perpetual license to that app, which not saying that you don't in the App Store, but it feels like things come and go in the App Store a lot faster than they do on Steam. So I think Apple's got to struggle there. So I'm not going to say a premier gaming platform, but certainly something that would compete with like the Steam Deck, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The cost of
It's
entry
really
is a
nice
little
they
too
are
high.
doing. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. But it's really nice they are doing at least something for the gamers, which is a really great thing because the community is quite big. So there is some potential for Apple uh, to take some money from the customers, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
But question is if it's not too late because the gaming industry on PC is far, far away. We are getting some new games, which is really great. We have some new technologies like ray tracing on M4, for example, etc. It's really great. It's wonderful. It's basically made by one chip only. It's SoC, but it's only one chip. On PC you need full computer with dedicated graphics card to
Right.
perform real-time ray tracing.
Yeah.
But on
So
Apple, it's just on one chip, so that's a really wonderful thing.
I think and this is something I've tried to explain to people over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Apple has had the attitude for a long time, and I still think this is true of their ethos, that you should not have to be a computer technician to use a computer or to enjoy the computer you're using. Just in the same way you shouldn't have to be a car mechanic to drive a car or to enjoy the car that you're using. So because of that, Apple takes a lot of the versatility that comes with a traditional PC tower away from you and says, trust us, we're going to handle it. We'll upgrade the firmware. We'll make sure it's compatible with the latest games. We'll pay developers to bring AAA games to our platform, to get on the App Store. We'll expose them. There's a ton of things Apple has done, not done perfectly, mind you. There's plenty of complaints against Apple in the gaming space in terms of developers that are developing for Apple. But it is interesting that Apple has decided to push this hard, and I don't know that they've been able to do it until they got the M series, the Apple Silicon designs figured out.
Yeah.
So to go, I think, to illustrate a little bit what you were saying of how Apple controlling the whole stack is a benefit to them and to the consumer, is that, so think of the Metal framework, right, for the graphics rendering. It allows you to get very close to the Metal, which is what Apple has always wanted. And so we have Metal support on Intel and AMD up to a point, but now with Apple Silicon, you can get a lot closer to the Metal, which is why they called it Metal in the first place. So that's the illustration I have for what you were trying to say, that Apple designs their hardware for their software because they want developers to get as close as they possibly can, but they don't necessarily want to do it in the way Windows does, where you do like kernel level access to things, right? That was, if you're familiar with the CrowdStrike incident some months ago, that's a result of that. So I think that there's a, I think you're 100% correct, I guess, and clearly Apple thinks the same, because they're plugging along with it. So that's all about. I mean, we kind of derailed a little bit, but that's kind of all I've got to say about the iMac. I wasn't sure if there's any other thoughts you had.
No, I think we can move on.
Okay, I'm with you though. I'd probably leave the iMac on the shelf. I don't think I'd be buying it.
Okay.
All right, so going on to the Mac Mini, which this has been my soft spot. My first Mac was a MacBook, but when I was able to buy my first Mac Mini, I genuinely fell in love with the entire platform and the whole idea of this tiny little computer that you can stick under a monitor, and there's a whole ecosystem and behind people making accessories exclusively for the Mac Mini. It's like, little desk stands that you can put your monitor on, and hard drives that look like a Mac Mini, so you can stack 2 or 3 of them up, and
I had this one.
Yeah. So the Mac Mini has just got a special place in my heart, and it's also it is the most accessible Mac. It must sell well because Apple has continued to develop it and upgrade it and sell it
It's
since it was
it's
introduced.
basically an entry point to Apple community. So
Yeah, for sure, the whole ecosystem. So 1/20th the size, yet up to 6 times faster compared to the top-selling PC desktop in its price range. So that's pretty wild. I'd be interested to see what PC that is, though. Let's go and check it out. September and October 2024. It doesn't say who the manufacturer is, but it's an Intel Core 7 based PC with Intel UHD graphics 770, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigabyte SSD, and the latest version of Windows 11 Home. So they don't tell us, though, who the manufacturer was. When they showed that on the keynote, though, I thought that thing looked like an HP. I was like, that's an HP desktop. So I wonder if that's who they're comparing it to. Because I know for a long time they compared their stuff against Dell. But I don't know if that's still the case today. But man, just what a powerful little computer that this is. So we've got 2 USB-C ports on the front now. The headphone jack, of course. The USB-C ports are 10 gigabits per second. I believe they're dedicated, so I don't think it splits it, right? If you put 2 different devices on the front ports, it actually, each lane is a dedicated lane of 10 gigabits per second. And then on the back, you've got 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports, which either of those is going to be dedicated. I've looked into the... I don't know that for sure. However, if they continue the trend that Apple has maintained in the previous generations of Apple Silicon, they do have a tendency to dedicate lanes to each port, right? So if you have a Thunderbolt 4 port, it's 40 gigabits per second on each port. So again, don't know that for sure, but that's kind of been the historical trend. The new design with the thermals is...
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
You know, it's fantastic. I really think it's great too.
Yeah.
Really, really wonderful.
Yeah. I love it.
I wish that. I mean, this is certainly, a lot of this design is coming out of what they did with the M1 iMacs, for sure. And what I wonder, though, is in a design this small, can you maintain a design like this for another 10 years, right? The original Mac Mini that was G4.
That's the question.
Yeah, it was a G4 Mac Mini. It stayed that way for, I think, 4 years, because once they switched to Intel, they kept that design until, I think this was the first generation where they had the Core 2 Duo, and that's when they switched it into the all-aluminum closure where you took the bottom off. And then... Or that was when the first generation of the Core i5 may have been what it was. I'm forgetting now. But now, here we are in our second generation of Mac Mini, third generation of Mac Mini, I guess, really. What is it? Is there an M1? Yeah, there's an M1 Mac Mini and M2 Mac Mini. Yep. So this is our third generation of Mac Mini that's on Apple Silicon, and we've decided to change it. So we had the last design here for, 12 years? Is this going to be another 10-year design? That's my question.
I think they can keep the design itself. They can just make it a little bigger if they need to.
Okay.
But it will still be so small box that will fit on your desktop. So I don't think, or I don't mind it will go bigger. What I noticed is that the design is basically the same as Mac Studio. It's just a little smaller. So if they grow it up, so I really wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I think that I'm kind of 50-50 on a bet with myself right now as to whether or not Apple will put in an M4 Ultra, like into a Mac 4, or like a Mac Studio M4 series. So I'm just on the fence about it.
I hope so.
I hope so. I kind of hope so too.
I hope so.
I won't buy a Mac Studio. I have no need for one, but I'm kind of hoping that they will. You know.
Yeah.
But of course, that would require them to actually develop an M4 Ultra, and they haven't done that since the M2 series. That was completely skipped with M3, and so. That also leaves the question of the Mac Pro, what's going to happen there, but that's a totally separate conversation from the Mac Mini.
Yeah.
But But the Mac Mini here is, like you said, the most accessible Mac in terms of price. Greatest value for the money, for sure, hands down. Especially if you're coming from a PC. But what I am noticing is we start at that $599 price point, which is amazing that Apple has managed to keep the price point being just $100 above when this product category was introduced by Steve Jobs 20 years ago. Because I'm pretty sure it was 2004 when he introduced the first Mac Mini. Maybe it was 2003. But basically for the last 20 years, we've had a super cheap entry-level Mac. $499 was the original. They had to unfortunately bring it up to $599 at some point. I think that was in the 2010s. But it stayed there ever since. And it has continually gotten better. And this one, unlike the iMac, this M4 model starts at the 10-core, 10-GPU variant. So we have 2 more cores, 2 more GPU cores, both than the $1,300 iMac. So it's a steal when you think of it in that capacity.
Yeah.
It's two front USB-C ports that are USB-C. It's USB 3.1, generation 3.1, because 10 gigabit, right? No, it's 3.0, because that's 10. No, it is 3.1, because it's USB 3 is 5, 3.1 is 10, 3.2 is 20. So yes, this is a 3.1 generation USB on the front, and then Thunderbolt 5 if you get the M4 Pro model. And that's up to 120 gigabits per second, which is bonkers. That is so crazy. It's like, Apple, you're doing us a disservice by not letting us use eGPUs with these things, man. I tell you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The performance would be so good. I do have an issue with the pricing model on the M4s, though, on the Max Minis, though, here, in that you basically you pay a $400 premium and all you get is 8 gigabytes more of memory and twice the storage. So you go from $600 to $1,000 for just those two little things. And there's no bend M4s, I'll give you that. So if you get the entry-level M4 Mac Mini, you are getting the best that the M4 non-Pro generation has to offer.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a trade-off there. And I was dismayed by this because I'm really wanting to get an M4 Pro Mac. My two Macs here are 5 and 14 years old at this point. So it's like I could afford to, I could get a new one. Yeah. I'm just kind of upset that it's like, $1,400 is the entry point for the M4 Pro. No. Let me double check. I don't think there's a storage constraint here on upgrading the RAM. Yeah, see, this is really interesting with the Mac Mini. You can get the 32 gigabytes of unified memory with the 256 storage option. So going back to what we were saying with the iMac, I think you're right. I think this is just artificial product segmentation. I don't think there's a technical reason that prevents it. So
yeah, the chip itself can handle it. So why they didn't put it in there? Because they just want to separate the products, So.
Market segmentation. I told you, Apple's the best at it. So $1,400 for the cheapest M4 Pro device you can get. Put it $1,600 if you want the maximum capacity M4 Pro, which is 14 cores, 20 GPU cores, which is what I want, of course, because the whole channel's focused on gaming. I've been a gamer my whole life, ever since I was a little kid, with the original Nintendo.
Yeah.
Never stopped.
Me too.
Never gonna stop. Yeah. And it's like, man. Go ahead.
I started on arcade machines.
Yeah, well, we had some arcades where I grew up too, and so I played, Mortal Kombat 2, Street Fighter, Ridge Racer, like all this stuff, when I was a kid, and so I've just continued gaming ever since. I never considered Macs really a gaming platform or anything Apple really did game as a gaming platform honestly,
It's not.
until
It's not even today.
well, I
It's
think it's not, again, going back to the premier gaming platform idea. I don't know that it is a premier gaming platform, but the fact you can do so much with crossover and the game porting
uh
toolkit and get
Yeah.
so close to Windows performance on these systems that were not at all, these games that were not at all designed to run on a Unix based OS.
hmm
And there's
That's basically what I wanted to say. That it's not gaming platform, but seeing the games running on hardware that was not designed for games, it's just incredible.
well, see, that's where I have to disagree with you. I think it is a gaming platform. It's just not. It's not first choice, right? Of course, it's not going to be. Microsoft's never going to let that go,
hmm
especially when they have the Xbox brand. Granted, Xbox has had some weird issues lately with their identity as to what they're going to do with the brand and how they make platform games available. But I mean, you have Xbox game streaming on Mac and on iOS now, so Microsoft is caring less about the hardware. They're kind of yielding the field to Sony as the PlayStation being the premier console, but they want the software everywhere, which is Microsoft's always been a software first company. So it's not terribly
Yeah.
surprising that they're doing that.
hmm hmm
So I think so anyway, going back to me being like I'm just like waffling on whether or not I can justify $1,600 on a 14 core CPU, 20 core GPU, or if I should just take my $1,400 and just be happy with the 12 core CPU and 16 core GPU model. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know
Yeah.
what the performance difference is going to be. Nobody knows. That's the trick. Like I tried to look at
Yeah.
the M3 Pros to compare, but there was only a 1 core difference with those in terms of the CPU cores, and I forget. Let's take a look here. On the
You know
GPU.
what's interesting?
Yeah.
When I bought the M1 Mac Mini, and I used it for maybe a year and a half, I think, and it was really great experience. I didn't have any performance issues, even on 3D graphics. It was just great. But when I upgraded to Mac Studio, I was really disappointed because I didn't see any difference in the performance
Really?
on my daily work. Yeah,
Wow.
because the chip itself is basically the same. 1 core performance was basically the same on both products. I just paid a lot more money for it. So I was really disappointed at first. But then when I realized that we have crossover and we can run Windows games, that I can use the GPU on the SoC, then it was a blast for me.
So
But
that's where
it was really interesting that I didn't see the difference in the performance on the daily work on the CPU itself.
right. So that's where the major, I guess, where things shine for Apple Silicon is in the heavy workloads, right? They can basically
Yeah.
turn off their efficiency cores and then dump everything into the performance cores. It's only when you stress them that you notice the meaningful difference that occurs from
Yeah,
offloading from
definitely.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's
yeah,
where they
basically when
shine.
I was when I was basically rendering an image in Blender, for example, I can see the difference. But working with the 3D models, etc., it was basically the same.
And here we were complaining that there's not really any hardware improvements with Apple and the iMac. Ah man, okay. Well, that's great. That's basically. I think that's all I've got for the Mac Mini. Do you think, though, just as a speculation, do you think Apple should introduce like multiple color Mac Minis?
I don't think so.
No, no, just keep it silver, huh?
No. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. I like it the way it is. It as it is. Sorry. And keep the colors on the IMAX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of colors, let's talk about the MacBook Pros. This is our third day, our final day, coming in space black and silver, 14-inch, 16-inch. We got the whole gamut here. M4 to M4 Pro to M4 Max. Go ahead.
Sorry, you just forgot to ask if we buy it or put it on
Oh,
the
you're
shelf.
right. Oh man, good catch, good catch. Okay, so we'll do the high low, right? All right, on the pre-configured models, M4 10 core 10 GPU Mac Mini 599, $600. I assume it's also 600 euros. I don't know, but I assume so. Are you buying it or are you leaving it on the shelf?
Buy definitely.
Buy it definitely. All right.
Yeah, yeah. At least for my wife, or for movies, or just some basic work on internet. Definitely buy it.
Okay. What about the $1,400 M4 Pro? It's $100 more than the iMac, the entry level iMac.
I would maybe skip it because I would prefer Mac Studio than this configuration.
Well, see, that's interesting you bring it up because all of the performance numbers for the Mac Mini are blowing the Mac Studio away in every area except the highest end models of the Mac Studio.
Interesting.
And even
I didn't know that.
I think some of it, I have to look up I saved some of the links. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm not going to let's see.
But anyway, I expecting that Apple will release M4 Mac Studio, so I'm saving this place for Mac Studio.
I see. So let me see here. I'm going through my screenshots. I got a lot of screenshots. Oh my goodness, so many. Okay, so here's what Apple Leaker over on Twitter said. And this is a very interesting thing he said. He said Apple just revealed the M4 Pro. It's over the competition, and it's over for the competition, and I'm not even overstating this. The 10 performance core, 4 efficiency cores of the M4 Mac Pro is 60% faster than the M3 Mac Pro. So you're looking at 24,400 multi-score points on the Geekbench 6 test, while the M3 Max only scores 21,400. So that's wild. Like, that is so crazy that we are that far ahead generationally. Like,
yeah.
All the different colors. Let's see.
But it's single core or multi-core performance?
Talking about multi-core performance. Single core performance, it is actually since it was announced, the Geekbench 6 scores, and this is again just in Geekbench, so this isn't for everything. This isn't every benchmark and test ever. It is the fastest single processing core you can get for a consumer product. It's faster than Intel's best. It's faster than AMD's best. Which is
that's wild.
That is wild.
That is wild.
So,
and we are still have M4 Max and Ultra coming.
Yeah, so we're still talking about the M4 Pros. We're not even talking about the M4 Max yet.
Yeah, that's it.
So, that's the crazy thing about it, man. Here we go. So here's somebody named I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce his name correctly on Twitter. I'm going to go with his handle, Torin06. He's got some numbers up here that are very interesting. It's the single core performance of the M4 Max from the M1 Max is a 30% improvement. From the M4 Max to the M1 Max is a 27% improvement. No, it's 27% improvement from the M3 Max, which is 42% up from M2, which is 20% up from M1. Wow, you're talking about more than double the performance from the M1 Max to the M4 Max.
That's really great.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
Man. Better than I thought.
A lot better. I guess I didn't save the screenshot that I found that discussed how much further ahead the M4 Pro was compared to the M2 Max. I'm pretty sure I'd seen that somewhere, but I guess I didn't screenshot it. Regardless, you're looking at a pretty pretty huge difference here, just in terms of the delta. So because of that, I don't know that I would recommend an M2 Mac Studio over an M4 Pro Mac Mini. I mean, just looking at this screenshot again here. So we're looking at single core M4 Max. That's Max. That's not the Pro. This is going to be the same single core stuff because they all have the same performance cores and efficiency cores. So this is a Max 16,1 12. So this is a 16 core. So that is not the Mac Mini, is it? Maybe. Hold on, let me check. I don't have all the models memorized yet. No, so that's the Max. That's not the Mini, or the Pro, I mean. Here we go. Here's a pretty good one. So Vadim Yuryev, who is from the Max Tech YouTube channel, he says the M4 Pro is the fastest production CPU in the world, excluding the M4 Max, beating out the best Intel and AMD CPUs. So just in Geekbench 6 scores, we're looking at 3,925 for the M4 Pro versus 3,136 for the Intel i9 and 2,986 for the AMD Ryzen 9 7950X. Goodness, they got to get better with the naming. they really do. Intel and AMD with their naming conventions are so goofy.
Yeah.
Apple M4 Pro multi-core is a little short of 23,000, which is about 1,000 more than Intel and about 1,500 more than the AMD EPYC. So, well, it's closer to 1,000. It's like 1,200 more than the AMD EPYC. If we're being literal, I'm just going ballparking a little bit here because we've been on this topic for a while. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about benchmarks for products that we don't even have our hands on yet. Oh, that was a little derail. I think I would probably get the $1,400 Mac Mini, the M4 Pro Mac Mini, before I bought a Mac Studio.
Because I would probably skip it and wait for Mac Studio.
Oh, okay. M4 Mac Studio. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what comes out with the M4 Max and the M4 Ultras, because the M2 is still just M2 Max and M2 Ultra. So there is no M2 Pro Mac Studio, right? And that starts at $2,000. So I would say absolutely get an M4 Mac Mini over a $2,000 Mac Studio as it is right now. But
yeah,
we might get a surprise drop here around Christmas time. Who knows? Apple might throw something special our way.
Yeah, we will see. But anyway, I will definitely need to see the charts and the numbers to see the performance differences in the computers or the CPUs. Because if I don't see the numbers, it's difficult to to process the data.
Not convinced. I'm with you. I understand. All right. So we wrapped up on the Mac Mini. Was there anything else I missed?
I think that's all.
Okay.
At least for my side.
Yeah, no, I think that's it for me too. I think that's all I've got to say. All right, we love you, Mac Mini. We're going on to the MacBook Pro now. So, re-intro. One more again. Speaking of colors, we have the space black and silver 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros that covers the gamut from the M4 to the M4 Pro to the M4 Max. So, leading in with this, I've loved the MacBook Pro redesign to the more like squarish kind of design since they moved to it. So I'm happy to step away from the unibody design. I was never crazy about the unibody stuff, but it was fine. But I'm happy that we're beyond that now, and we have been for a couple generations. So 3, if I'm getting this right, we have 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports. Let me double check that, because that might be dependent on the chipset that you use. So you have 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports only on the Pro and Max variants. The base M4 still has Thunderbolt 4. Starting at $1,600 for 16 gigs of unified memory and 512 gigabytes of SSD. So this, I think, is Apple making a statement that this is a more pro-level system because you start out at 0.5 terabyte of storage.
Yeah.
It is interesting that they do here, which I don't recall seeing with the Mac Mini and the Mac and the iMac. They actually list the memory bandwidth. So the M4, the base M4, 10 core, 10 CPUs, or 10 GPU, I mean, has 120 gigabytes, not gigabits, gigabytes per second on memory bandwidth. And stepping up to the 12 core M4 Pro takes you up to 273 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth, while the M4 Max is 410 gigabytes per second. So you're seeing significant memory bandwidth improvements as you step up this. Yeah, as you step up the ladder here between the different models. And that's on the 14-inch. I assume the 16-inch is the same way. Oh, the 16 inches start with the M4 Pro. They don't even have an entry level, like the baseline M4 in this. And the high-end M4 Max on the 16-inch is 546 gigabytes per second. Wow. And that has the 40 gigabyte or the 40 core GPU. That's impressive. That's pretty crazy.
That is.
I don't even know what to say about a MacBook Pro like this. This is like beyond like my ability to afford one of these things. Like I really wanted to, because I was sitting there looking at this like I could afford it. Like I could put this. I have an Apple credit card. I could put it on the credit card. I could do it. You know, like I'm like slowly like talking myself into it here, and I'm like, what would this cost me per month if I went with an M4 Pro, the 14 core, 20 core GPU? It's $200 a month, and it's like, oh man, I could do that. And then I was looking at the high end 16-inch M4 Max, and it's like $333 a month, and I was like, I could do it. I could, like, I'm like trying to convince myself that I could afford to spend this on a Mac every month. And I so want to. The ProMotion display. Now that I've like upgraded to the high refresh rate monitor life, like right now, my prior monitor was 165 hertz. The new one that I have is 180 hertz. Now that I'm here, and my work computer is still 60 hertz, it's like, now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it.
That's it. If you use 60 hertz, it's okay. But if you upgrade it,
you could survive.
And then move back. Yeah. You can see. Yeah, you can survive, but you can see the difference.
Yeah, you really can.
Yeah, so I can really. So I can really understand.
Oh man, I don't even know where to start with these though.
I'm not a big fan of, or because I don't need a portable device. I'm more a desktop user. So I basically don't have any specific use for notebooks in general. I do have a Windows PC notebook here from HP, but I got it from my employer.
Right.
So I use it just for my daily work. But I also do have a MacBook Air, but that's only because I want to record videos on it using the capture card.
Right.
So this is the only reason why I have a mobile device, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am, honestly. Go ahead. I thought you were finished with your thoughts. I wasn't trying to interrupt.
Yeah. That's fine. It's just that I like how it looks, the design. It's Apple device, so what you can expect from Apple, but I just don't have any specific use for it. And I would maybe buy a desktop and save the money because the difference in price is because of the display the notebooks have. So if you save the money from the display, you have a great desktop computer.
That's true. That is true. We just talked about that with the Mac Mini.
Yeah. That's the reason why I wouldn't buy a MacBook in general.
All right. So you're telling us
Yeah.
out the gate you're leaving it on the shelf.
Leave it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I like it. I maybe would buy it, but I wouldn't need it, just to have it.
I understand. I do. I have the 2019 MacBook Pro that I'm using to run my whole channel it's a wonderful computer. And when I got this, I forgot what it was like to have a MacBook again. But I was thinking about it and I was like, I never travel like anywhere. And the work that I do, being a Linux systems engineer and the organization that I work for, I can't ever bring my personal computer to work. I can never do anything on it. Like it all has to be done through the corporate stuff that we're provided. So I'm with you. I'm kind of like, I don't need.
It's quite common.
Yeah, I don't need anything portable. And so it kind of makes it an easy sell.
That's the reason.
Yeah. They do have a lot that they highlight on the product page about Apple Intelligence. And I think that more than the other 2 days, this one, the MacBook Pro, really tried to emphasize all that you can do with Apple Intelligence on the Mac. Again, it has the M4 Max in it, so of course they're going to lean into that a bit more.
Do you think there will be some difference considering the hardware with the Apple Intelligence? I mean, in maybe iMac and the MacBook Pro?
So this is actually something we were talking about in Mac Pro Tips Discord earlier. I was trying to assess how much memory does Apple Intelligence use? And because you can turn the feature off in Mac OS entirely, which would make me think it doesn't actually, when it's turned off, it's not going to be using those system resources. So Apple upgrades us. All Macs are now 16 gigabytes. There's no 8 gigabyte options anymore, I think, unless you buy refurbished.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you have to think that the Apple Intelligence, what they're going to store in RAM, is going to occupy a significant amount of RAM if they're going to upgrade everything to 16 gigs. Which makes me think that... So just looking at like my MacBook Pro here, OBS is taking up... Safari is taking up basically 2.5 gigs of my system RAM. So I've got 16 gigs.
It's quite hungry.
Yeah, I'd say my total usage right now is 11.4 gigabytes out of 16 gigabytes. My apps are using 5.3 gigabytes. The OS has wired 3.3 gigabytes, and then 2.9 gigabytes of RAM is compressed for system usage. So I only have 4.6 gigs free. So it's like, okay, if I was running Apple Intelligence on this thing, I would have no gigabytes free. So not that I can, so I'm thinking 8 gigabytes really isn't enough for this thing. It's got to be, from what I could find online, just kind of digging around, taking guesses, it's got to be about 4 gigabytes of RAM that Apple Intelligence uses when it's on. At least that's what the rumors are saying, and reverse engineers and speculators and like Mac forums and so forth.
Yeah, okay.
What Apple itself says is that you need 4 gigabytes of storage on your system, which makes me think, and this is my speculation in Mac Pro Tips Discord earlier, is that 4 gigabytes of ready-to-access like voice recognition algorithms or language models are running in RAM when Apple Intelligence is on. And then it has 4 gigabytes of storage reserved for when it needs to decompress another AI component. Or the models, whatever you want to call them. I'm not super sure the correct terminology on the artificial intelligence stuff. So So yeah, I'm looking now at Apple's Get Started with Apple Intelligence on Mac page. So they say supported devices. Apple Intelligence is available on Mac OS 15.1 Mac models with M1 or later. Devices need 4 gigabytes of available storage. So they only ever mention storage. They don't mention RAM. The only thing they ever say.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the only thing they ever say is that it'll run on M1 or later. But now their Macs are 16 gigs.
Yeah, there definitely must be something that, or the Apple Intelligence must use the memory. There wouldn't be any other reason why they upgraded the RAM for the products.
Well, there's this little asterisk here at the end of this page that says storage requirements for on-device Apple Intelligence features will increase as more features become available. So remember what we were saying earlier about the iMacs. When we were discussing the iMacs, I talked about the lady Allegra when she said, when Siri is able to do such and such feature, right? So this must be what it's referring to, is my guess.
Yeah, but my question was, if you think there will be some differences in kind of abilities or things you can do with the Apple Intelligence.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
On iMac or a MacBook Pro.
I don't think fundamentally there will be any differences, especially not right away. I think that you'd see a difference some years down the road as AI models change, as my assumption is at some point you'll be able to describe something, because you can see where they have like the AI generated like movie clips and stuff like that, which are some of those are really interesting. Think if you can start doing that with 3D models, where you start telling, you start verbally dictating to an Apple Intelligence model or any AI model, I want a medieval battlefield that looks like this, that's got a castle that's made of stone, but the stone's a little red, it's got so many layers. I don't even know how to describe these kinds of things because I'm not an artist in that way, but you have to think it's going to get more and more detailed, and as the average consumer goes from, we've gone from 1080p to 4K, 8K is really, we're starting to touch 8K now. In 4 or 5 years' time, are we going to be at 16K or 32K, right? In terms of video. With something like Vision Pro, as 3D experiences become more common in the average household, are we going to see more and more? We're going to see the demands that things like an M4 can't do that an M4 Max could. So I think, if I recall correctly, Apple was, one of the taglines they were saying about the MacBook Pro, the M4 Max specifically, is if you want like tomorrow's technology today. Or maybe that was about the Vision Pro. This may have been what they were saying. But I feel like it's still applicable to the M4 Max. So I think that it'll just allow you to interact with the next generation of technology that's not really commonplace yet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else it could do. You're looking at an 8-core, 8 GPU iMac versus a 16-core 40 GPU, right? Isn't that what it is? MacBook Pro with an M4 Max. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU. So you've got twice the number of CPU cores, more than twice the number of performance cores.
Yeah.
And you're looking at 5 times the number of GPU cores with 48 gigs of unified memory, so 2.5 times the amount of RAM. It's...
Yeah, so there will be basically a difference in performance itself than in
I think with
its
the
functionality.
Things, yeah, I was about to say, I think with the things that you could develop, I think for most people, the fact that I can run my YouTube channel from a MacBook Pro that's 5 years old, it's like, what is this really going to offer me? Like, if I turn off Apple Intelligence, what am I going to notice as a difference? And I think this goes back to what we were saying about software innovation, right? That outside of the AI features, we're kind of hitting the limit on software creativity for Mac OS at least. I think there's room for improvement in Windows for sure, and Linux is doing some interesting things also. But I don't know what Mac OS is offering the average consumer that is significantly different outside of Apple Intelligence.
That's true. Yeah, that's basically nothing. They introduced the iPhone mirroring, and that's basically it. There's nothing changing anymore.
Right. I mean, I've always used Siri as like a secondary assistant, right? Set a clock, set a reminder, create an appointment on such and such day with this calendar. I don't really use Siri much. I'm too much of the.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't at all.
So as somebody who's like hands-on with everything he does, because again, I'm a systems engineer, it's like I want to be on the mouse and keyboard, right? Like I don't want to talk to my computer. Yeah. I want to type on it.
Yeah, definitely.
I might just be old.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I wanted to say that we are maybe just too old.
We're the youngins. I gotta get the kids on this podcast.
We just needed the mouse and keyboards to work with computer.
Right.
We don't want to talk with. Yeah, I have a wife that I can speak to.
That's right. I can talk to my wife, not my computer. I've got a wife and kid I can talk to. I don't need this thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So one thing I love about Mac OS is unlike Windows, or at least until Windows 10, like Windows made a bunch of noises. Like you click on something, it'll beep or honk at you. Like you start it up, it makes noise. You shut it down, it makes noise. It's like I hate Windows.
I'm not sure if I want to step into this water.
Fair enough. All right, we'll leave that there. I just don't like noisy operating systems, I guess.
Yeah. I hate Windows from Windows 95. So if you want to talk about it, we can. But I think it will need separate.
You're right. That's outside of this world.
Yeah.
All right, so we've already said we're probably going to leave the MacBook Pro on the shelf. We're not buying it. I might be convinced to buy the $2,400 MacBook Pro because it's got 24 gigs of memory, 1 terabyte of storage. I would rather, actually, if I were going to redo that configuration, I would rather do it with, I wonder if we can go into the Apple configurator real quick. I can do a 12-core, 16 GPU M4 Pro with 48 gigs of memory and 512 storage. It's cost the same amount. I was about to say, I would rather keep the 512 storage and double the memory instead of doubling the storage. Now, that said, for the pre-configured model, you get 2 more CPU cores, 4 more GPU cores, and you get double the storage for $400. If you price it out individually, it's like an extra $600. So they give you a little bit of a break on that. But
yeah,
I don't think I would go for. Yeah, I think I would probably go for the $2,000 model if I had to pick a MacBook Pro. And I think I would stick to the 14-inch because I love my 16-inch 2019 here. But man, this thing's a pain in the butt some days, especially on planes. I've only traveled with it once, but God, it was terrible. So, at least on the plane, it was terrible.
Yeah.
At our accommodations, it was fine because you have a desk. But so yeah, I could see going for the $2,000 MacBook Pro, but that's probably where I would cut it off. I don't think I would go any higher than that. I don't think anything lower than that's really worth the trouble. Like, I mean, if you're gonna go lower than that, get yourself a Mac Mini and a MacBook Air. Like, you can still buy M1 MacBook Airs from Walmart here in the U.S. for $650. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I would maybe prefer to buy MacBook Air, some cheaper ones, and use the saved money for a stronger desktop.
Yeah,
like Mac Studio or something.
Yeah, because I
just don't have any use for a mobile device. So I already said that.
Yep. I think we covered that, but I think too The MacBook Airs are great so long as you don't need sustained performance. Like my wife has an M2 MacBook Air that we got a refurb. It was off of the refurbished store. I buy tons of stuff from Apple refurbished because it's all so fantastic. And it's just like you wouldn't even know. The fact that it's dead silent and obviously no moving parts. So it's like, you know, why would I bother getting anything more expensive?
That's it.
So yeah, all right. I think that's where I'm at. I wish we had some more colors, but apparently space black is only, or space gray is only for professionals. You're not allowed to have that for. If you're a professional, you're not allowed to have any other color options, right? You can have. What was the old Steve Jobs saying? You can have your turtleneck in any color you want, so long as it's black. So. Space black and silver. Pick your poison.
Pick your poison.
All right, 1600 nits, peak brightness, HDR content. Wow, that's a nice display though. It is a nice display though.
Yeah, it is. But you can still save the money and have more powerful computer on your desktop.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's all my thoughts on the MacBook Pro, or all the Macs from this week. Any other topic? Any other thoughts? Any other topics? Anything? Oh, gaming news? I don't know. Well, I don't know. Are you much of a gamer?
Sorry?
I said you said you're a bit of a gamer too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you see the list of games that are going to be coming out for the Mac that are already out or are coming out soon?
Yeah, I knew about Robocop, Crime City, and The Control, the two games that I really looking forward. But I noticed that there will be Cyberpunk 2077 coming to Mac, 2077, which is really, really wonderful.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at these and I'm like, okay, Songs of Conquest, I don't know. RoboCop Rogue City was very popular. I think it still is. Wuthering Waves is already everywhere, except the Mac. Or is it on the Mac? I know it's on iOS and iPad. I don't know if it's on Mac yet. Shame on me. Infinity Nikki, don't know what that is. It looks like an RPG, maybe? Like a cutesy kind of kid RPG?
I think I saw one video from Mr. McWright about that game. It was more like adventure game, but in Japanese style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frostpunk 2, we already knew was coming. Dead Island 2 coming to Mac. That's great. I never played the original, but I know it's popular. World of Warcraft obviously is going to... Blizzard's great about supporting Mac. Yeah, they always have been. Control Ultimate Edition, I think is already out on Mac, but it's obviously what M4 brings to the table is just going to... Control is just going to push it, its visual fidelity to the next level.
But I'm not sure if it's released already or not.
Is it? It might not be. It might not be.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, look at me! I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm supposed to be a gaming channel.
No, I made a performance test on Control. I also have a video about it, but on a Windows version only. So I'm really looking forward to see the native version, so I can compare the performance on Windows and native platform.
Let's see, looking at Reddit real quick. So back in June, so it says it's coming to Mac in 2024. And it says it's optimized for Apple Silicon Macs with support for HDR and Metal Effects upscaling, hardware support ray tracing. It didn't give a particular month though, or date.
No, but I'm checking App Store basically
That's
on
from 5 months
daily
ago.
basis, and it was not released yet.
I see. Well,
but I really love the game. I finished it on my PS5, so I will definitely play it again on Mac.
I haven't played it yet, so I'm waiting for it to come to the Mac. It's one of the reasons I got to get an Apple Silicon Mac so I can actually start playing more games. Newer games. I'm playing a lot of old ones right now.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is coming. Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming. I've never cared for any of the Assassin's Creed games.
No, I never played a single Assassin's Creed game till now. One time I tried to play the game, but it was with Czech dubbing or dialogues. I
Hmm.
don't know what to say. But it was terrible experience, so I turned off the game and never started again.
Yeah, I tried to play the first one, and then what is it? I mean, you wouldn't know. I guess you're probably the wrong person to ask. But there's another one later in the series. I think it's Brotherhood. People were like, no, this one's so much better than the first game. You got to try it. And I tried it, and I was like, this is also equally as boring to me. So I gave up on Assassin's Creed a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, but in general, I don't like Ubisoft games at all. So
Me neither.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
They just don't jive with me. They never have. It's nothing
Mm,
like personal against the company. I think the only one I ever really enjoyed was Rainbow Six 3 on the original Xbox.
hmm.
So
Never
it's
played
been a
this
long
one.
time. Yeah, it's been a long time. That was early 2000s. Uh, Civilization 7, which I think my first live stream series was Civilization 6 on the Mac. And so I'm super excited
Hmm.
about Civ 7. Definitely going to be playing that. You can guarantee, tune into my channel. You're going to get it. You're going to be able to see me play it. Whether you care about me or not, you're
Okay.
going to see me play Civ 7. So when that comes
Okay.
out,
I will definitely join you.
yeah.
Yeah. The last Civilization game I played was 2, I think.
Wow. You've been out of the loop.
Yeah. No, I tried. I think Civilization 3 or 4, but I didn't like it at all. So I put it away and just forget about the game.
I see.
But I would maybe try the latest version. We will see what's the difference.
Yeah. I
At
mean, I
least in
think,
graphics.
yeah. I liked Civ 5 okay, but the first one I really think I loved was Civilization Beyond Earth, and they
Uh-huh.
took which introduced a lot of new mechanics, and then they brought those mechanics, which is also on Mac by the way, and they brought a number of those mechanics over to Civilization 6, and
Hmm.
they really made the civilization building structure with like districts within your territory. They made a lot of improvements to it and just expanded it well beyond what had been done before in the Civ series. So I really liked Civ 6 a lot. I think to date it is the best Civ game. Even though I love
Hmm.
Beyond Earth because I'm a sci-fi nerd, I think Civ 6 is definitely the pinnacle of their efforts so far. So I'm hopeful for Civilization 7.
Okay. Maybe I will give it a try. But speaking about strategy games, and if you said you like sci-fi, what about Dune Spy Wars? It's not on Mac. It's on Windows, but it runs on crossover. Have you tried this one?
I have not. No.
No, no. Maybe you should give it a try. It's quite similar in some ways with Civilization, but it's on Dune. I definitely believe you know Dune.
You said June?
Dune, yes. Dune
Oh,
Spy
Dune.
Wars.
Like yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yes, the
Yeah.
big. Oh gosh, who?
Sorry, my pronouncement.
No, that's okay. It's okay. It's Oh gosh, what is his name? Who wrote Dune? I'm totally blanking on the name now of the author.
Uh, Let me check. I have a book here.
I
Frank
didn't like
Herbert.
I didn't like the book very much. I liked the latest set of movies that came out. I thought were fantastic, just
Hmm.
wonderful,
Yeah, definitely.
and I like that they did stick relatively close to the books. But I'm not like
Hmm.
I just didn't like the book. If I'm being honest, I didn't like the book that much. I think the first half of the book is good. The second half of the book really drags. So I'm glad that they were able to make the movie a little bit more interesting.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I got all of the books from my wife last Christmas,
Ah,
so I'm reading the books
my
at the
wife.
moment.
My wife has gone through all of the Dune books as well. She's told me all about them. They get pretty wild.
Yeah, but I really love the story and the atmosphere and just basically everything about it.
Right. Sticking to the gaming topics. Something else that was announced is, I'm gonna make sure the volume off is off on this because I was about to play a video. It looks interesting. Dune Spice Wars. There can be some definite.
And it runs quite well on a crossover.
Yeah, well, definitely have to give it.
Yeah, you can get over a 60 FPS.
Definitely will have to give it a look. But yeah, other games that are coming out. I just closed my whole Safari window. Whoops. Q and W. Pools. There's a game called Pools, which is kind of feels to me like in the same kind of idea as Portal. It's a first-person puzzle-solving game, but it is what they've done with. I'm pretty sure it's Unreal Engine 5. What they've done with this game in terms of the quality of its graphics is, it's a bit uncanny how realistic it looks, with all of the ray tracing effects turned on. So
I think I missed this one.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot about it because I didn't want to ruin anything, so I've kind of intentionally stayed away from it until I could afford a Mac that could play it, because I'm pretty sure they announced early on it was coming to Mac. So it looks. This is going to be an interesting one, and I'm sure it's going to have some like surreal, psychedelic, kind of horror elements or aspects to it. So I'm interested to see that one. Farming Simulator is not my jam, but there's some people who live and die by Farming Simulator. So that's coming to Mac. My family has an actual farm, so I'm not too interested in simulating it.
Not surprised.
Sniper Elite 4 Italia is coming to the Mac, apparently. I've never played any of the Sniper Elite games, but I know that they are popular among many.
Me neither.
Where Winds Meet. I don't know anything about this game. There's characters below the English title that, to me, look Chinese. So I'm wondering if this is a Chinese game that that's getting, released internationally.
I think this is another game Mr. McWright was speaking about in his video.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was speaking about some upcoming games to Mac, and this one was on his list.
Apparently
as well.
It's on PS5. Let's check out the wiki. It's currently on Windows and PS5, PlayStation 5 right now. It's an open-world role-playing game based on the wuxia genre, which is a genre of Chinese fiction concerning the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. Okay, so it is Chinese. All right. So I wasn't.
Yeah, I know. Now I remember. Yeah, that looked quite interesting.
I'll have to look into it.
It reminded me maybe Ghost of Tsushima a little.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is what I've been toying with playing next year is doing Ghost of Tsushima through crossover if I get an M4 Mac. So I'm not entirely opposed to giving this one a shot too, especially if it's native.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, of course, they've also listed that. That's coming next. Wait, Resident Evil 2 is already out. The remake's already out on Mac, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Resident Evil 2 is not on Mac yet.
No, it's not.
It will be released
okay.
next month, I think.
Okay. So, but it will be this year, though. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, what was the big surprise? They had a surprise announcement for Cyberpunk. That's what it was. 2077 coming to Mac next year, early next year. They said specifically.
Yes.
They kind of like slid that in there as if nobody was going to notice. So it wasn't up on there. Like they have like a title card that shows all their game titles, and Cyberpunk isn't on there. They just kind of said it. I was like, wait, what? That was I only played through it once, but I think I have like 88 hours on my first playthrough. So it's like a huge game. I enjoyed that game so much. The whole Cyberpunk genre, high tech, low life, all of that stuff. It just fascinates me. So I really enjoy it, and I'm excited to play it again. I have to wait.
Yeah, I gave the game about 2 hours, but it was one of the first releases that was quite buggy.
Ah, I see.
So it was not good experience. So I closed the game, and I just haven't found a time for the game yet. but I will definitely try once it is released on Mac.
Yeah, it had a really rough start. It really did.
Yeah.
But
But I
it's
heard
great now. But
it's
man,
pretty. Yeah. It's pretty stable and pretty okay now. So we will see.
that we will. All right, well, I think that's it. We got iMacs, we got Mac Minis, we've got MacBook Pros. We talked about a bunch of games that are currently out and upcoming. Anything else?
Just maybe because I was a little disappointed. I was expecting that Mac Studio will be released as well.
Oh, I see.
So because I'm waiting for it for quite a bit.
Disappointed
but
in
at
no
least,
Mac Studio. I gotcha.
yeah, because I really looking forward for M4 to make an upgrade. The M1 it's really great and it's sufficient for my work, but just seeing the new stuff the M4 can do just makes me or is forcing me to buy the new one. If you know what I mean.
You hear that, Tim? You want to if you want to get PBY's dollars, you better give us an M4 Mac Studio.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going for it.
All right. Well, I think that's it for me too. Yeah, I think if I'm going to get one, I'm probably going to get the Mac Mini. Is what I'm leaning towards. I mean, I know I'm going to get one. I just when am I going to get it is kind of the question where I'm at right now. So, I think that I'm really interested to see when these hit the wild and we actually get some performance benchmarks with some games. I think it's going to be much more interesting, and that will. Yeah, I feel like FPS Analyzer is going to get a huge boost in the number of games that are getting added to the database. So in the near future,
that's I wanted to say. Yeah, if you want to see some potential in M4 and see how the games are performing on M4, please use FPS Analyzer tool. It's up to us on the community to make the database grow, so we can all benefit from it.
That's right. There is not something like FPS Analyzer in Mac anywhere else. They've got tons and tons and tons of websites that are dedicated to performance analysis for Windows and Xbox and PlayStation 5 and even Nintendo Switches. But they don't have anything like that until now for FPS Analyzer. So get on board, download and install FPS Analyzer. If you've got Sonoma, if you've got Sequoia, it'll run for your system. It runs on Intel, it runs on Apple Silicon, and it will tell you, it gives you the ability to analyze performance over time and submit that to a public database that everyone can see. So if you're curious about what a particular hardware setup is going to do in terms of performance at 720p, 1080p, 1440p, whether it's low, medium, high, ultra, dreamscape graphics, whatever it is, this tool can tell you. It's a very lightweight tool. It uses on my Mac, it uses 100 megabytes of memory. It's really small. Yeah. So it's not going to hog up your system resources. It's not going to impact your gameplay experience. It is really a unique, one-of-a-kind tool, and I think that everyone, if you're hearing this, jump on board, go get FPS Analyzer, contribute to the community. If we're going to make this an Apple gaming community, we got to act like a community, and we got to come together around it. So that's just my little rant about it. I'm super excited. I love the project, and I'm going to keep contributing my results as I find them. So anything else you want to add about it? Is there anything I missed on FPS Analyzer?
No, just wanted to say thank you for speaking or putting a word for FPS Analyzer.
I think it's a great tool. I think it'll benefit everybody. It's a free app right now. I don't know if you have any plans to monetize it, but whether you do or not, everybody benefits from it. We're all going to get something out of it. It doesn't take much of your time. You can set a 1 minute or a 3 minute or a 10 minute, game recording session, and it can, you don't have to spend a lot of time with it, and then you can automatically upload. Well, you have to click a button, but it'll upload to the website automatically. You don't have to sit there and manually fill out a spreadsheet or anything goofy like that. So PBY's really thought of it all. I think it's a wonderful tool that the Apple ecosystem has missed forever. But that changed in 2024. So go get it, go download it. Let's all contribute together. Let's all enjoy each other's hard work together. It's not even hard work. That's the thing about it. It's not even hard work. All you have to do is play some games.
Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Yeah, and we also have a Discord channel. So if you want or you have any questions, just feel free to join the Discord server and send your questions.
Yep. It is called the Mac
or opinions,
Games
suggestions.
Database.
Yeah.
So, and you can also go to macgamesdb.com. The links are there as well, I'm pretty sure. So, so if you don't want to join the Discord, you can just go check out the results from Mac Games DB. Cool. All right. I think that's it. I think I've talked myself out.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you so much. We look forward to seeing you all soon. I'm also going to do another episode with MPT and Jay Fishing. MPT is Mac Pro Tips, so stay tuned for that. That'll be up on the channel soon as well, as soon as we get that episode recorded. I don't know if we'll have any other guests. I know those two I'm doing for sure, but if there's anybody else, I'll certainly put up episodes for them as well. So that's it. Apple Gaming SE is done. PBY, anything else before we go?
No, thank you.
You heard it here. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.